born artist but raised with traditional Asian expectations, Swan, better known as SwanVR, has carved a path of liberation and purpose. She went from Wall Street to Burning Man, from viral VR stardom with 100 million views on Beat Saber to fire spinning and eco communities around the world. After a transformative journey to Bhutan's Innovation Summit, she returned to Bali to co-found Earth Lab, and now she's channeling her vision into Rap Earth Festival in Los Angeles, igniting a renaissance of regeneration and creativity in a city scarred by wildfire. Let's hear her story. This is the Asian Rebel Club podcast, a space for the ones who grew up chasing approval and are now learning how to be free. I am Crystal Ren, entrepreneur, creative, and recovering achievement addict. Each week, we dive into honest conversations with Asian rebels, rewriting what success, identity, and freedom really mean. If you're ready to live your story, not somebody else, welcome home. Welcome to the Asian Rebel Club podcast. So can you tell us a bit about yourself?
Okay, so I was born an artist, but also born to Asian parents. So I was always creative, always like spontaneous, kind of just like free flowing, adventurous. And then over the years, I kind of like lost that side, and I basically got my first job in investment banking. And it was interesting because it was everything that society kind of told me I wanted, but in the end, I realized it wasn't that fulfilling. So that was my kind of awakening moment. And then since then, I've been working in tech. So I was working in virtual reality. Now I work in AI. And right now I'm working for Earth Lab, where basically we're creating a conscious movement. We're hosting conscious festivals around the world. And we're also creating our own Gaia Intelligence AI to basically make ancient wisdom of future technology. A lot of the ancient wisdoms of like rituals and just like somatic awareness into future tech with AI. So basically the wisdom could be like regurgitated into this era where we really need it right now.
Yes, that sounds amazing. So let's maybe go back in time a little bit. You mentioned that you were born in New York City, but spent your early years in rural China before reuniting with your parents in the US. So how did this early separation and experience shape your sense of identity?
So it was really fascinating because like when I was in China, I was like running around the rice paddies in this beautiful village with like all these children to play with. And I was just like, this is great. This is amazing. Like, and I didn't realize that there was a greater world. Like, I feel like every time I go traveling, I understand like where everybody's coming from because like you don't know much of everything that comes out. So like all I knew of the world was my village. So basically being raised by my uncle, my aunt, my grandmother, and then all the parents of the children that were my friends was like my upbringing. So I literally was raised by a village. And it was interesting being taken from that environment that I truly thought was my home, my world, my construct of reality, and then placed in Ohio in the suburbs. And I was just like, where am I? Like, it was complete culture shock, disassociation with reality. I was just like taken from lush green rice paddies to like these like apartments in suburbia with like no children in like the playgrounds during the day and like basically cars everywhere. So it was a huge cultural shock. And for me, like I didn't really speak English when I first came. So I couldn't like,
How,
like
how old were you?
communicate. I was probably around close to 6, like 5.5, 6. So for me, it was a huge cultural shock because I was like, okay, like I didn't realize this other world existed. It's like us going from Earth and everything that we knew about Earth and then be placed on a different planet with like different rules, different constructs, and a different language. And you're just kind of feeling just out of place. Like you're still in shock and you kind of make sense of everything.
Yeah. Wait, so just maybe help me understand a bit. Even though you were born in the US, you actually didn't have much memory about it because you were kind of raised in China, but then got airdropped into the US again. Like, how did that even happen? Like, how come there's so much movement and it's like cross continental in such an early age?
So the interesting thing is like, so my parents came to America as like first immigrants. So I was actually
Yeah.
conceived in Congo because my parents basically got a job in the Congos. My mother was set up an arranged marriage with my father, so she flew on a one-way ticket to meet him in the Congos. So I was conceived there, and then my dad was able to get a green card to come to America before I was born. So they came over 3 months pregnant with me, but they were like new
Mm,
immigrants, so they were like borrowing money from our family. So they didn't have the means to like really raise me. Like a child
right.
requires so much attention and care. So in the Chinese like customs, a lot of times it's the grandparents that raises the child. So they like
Right.
had me sent back to China, raised by my uncle, my aunt, and my grandmother. And then when it was time for me to start school, they had me come back to America. And I was just like in shock because it's like different language, different culture, different ways of being. Everybody I knew was gone. So for me, it was just like, it was so out of body experience. I was just like out of world experience for me.
Mm, mm. And how did you get adjusted into the American culture? Did you have any support, like, or how did you figure it out? And how did that experience shape you?
Actually, a lot of it was, like, watching TV, like, I got obsessed with Power Rangers. I learned English from Power Rangers, and then I ended up just, like it's interesting, like, I feel like I'm more American than Chinese right now because I'm
Yeah,
very outspoken, I'm, like, very adventurous, I'm very creative, I do Burning Man.
yeah,
I basically, like, haven't been really big on the whole entire marriage and kids train, like, I have friends that desperately wanna be a mom, so they're looking for, like, sperm donors. I'm not
yeah.
on the train. So I feel like I've been more Americanized than had I not come to America. So because of that, like I have this very expansive, colorful, vibrant life right now, and all these opportunities presented to me that wouldn't been available had I stayed in China. So yeah, like I feel like my identity right now is more American. I don't know when that turning point was when I became like, more Americanized. I think it was just like making friends in like elementary school and like breaking out of my shell because I
Yeah.
remember when I was first there, I couldn't speak a lot of English. So I just kind of kept to myself. And then eventually, like, I started just like talking to more of the kids around me. And I think it was probably around third grade or something like that that I started like, being much more comfortable, much more myself and more outspoken.
And I know that your parents, as you mentioned, had arranged marriage and also placed strong expectations on you because, obviously they grew up and they grew up in a different era in China, right? And also like their way of looking at life and also life for a girl will be very different from you when you were in the States. So like you also mentioned in our previous conversations, you said they wanted you to be a doctor and have like 6 kids. What's the
Yeah.
most yeah.
Oh my gosh. So my dad said to me, like, I came to America with nothing to give you an opportunity. So I expect you to have a bigger house than me, more cars than me, and more children than me. And I just looked at him, I was like, you have 5 kids. You think I'm gonna pop out 6 babies? Hell no.
Yeah, I mean, okay, wait. Did he think it was a sacrifice that he made for you or like what was his line of thinking?
I think it's yeah, I think he basically thought that him coming to America gave us all opportunities, and therefore we should also sacrifice our desires to fulfill his. Which
Oh,
in a
wow.
way
So it's like a
he
value
did.
exchange. It's like I'm
Yeah,
doing
yeah,
this for
yeah.
you, therefore you're gonna do this for me.
So it's very obligation based, but then for me, like, I didn't really buy into it because, like, again, I wasn't raised by my dad, so, like, I
Yeah.
didn't have this obligation and connection with him, so it wasn't fair, so I basically, started, like, coming to myself. I think the help was my friend Nicole, like, she was my best friend in high school. Like, she would always sneak me out to events, she would always ask, "Why can you come to these parties with me?"
Mm.
I'm like, "Well, my parents won't allow me to go partying." And because they would say, like, "Good Asian girls stay at home and
They
study, they
don't
don't
they
go
don't
out partying.
party.
They don't party." And I'm like so basically, luckily, Nicole was so amazing. She would sneak me out, and I would just go out partying with her. But that's the thing, like, my parents were, like, really old school, like, really
Yeah.
old school, like, fresh from the rice paddies, old school, like, immigrants. So they didn't really have, like, a formal education. It was just, like, 6th grade education that they got.
That's crazy. And,
Yeah.
what was the first moment you knew that you couldn't live their version of life?
I think it was when I thought about what my desires were. I think I was in college and I was really depressed being pre-med because I think my inner soul, like there was like this inner soul knowing that like this is not your life path because
Yeah.
I was thinking about it. I'm like, hey, so I would have to finish 4 years here and then apply for medical school, do another 4 years, and then go to residency. So I'm not going to be living my life until my 30s. So I was just
Wait,
like, "No."
so in your high school, like, you were actually going down the path that your dad wanted you to go down initially?
Yeah, yeah. Because he was like, "I'm gonna pay for your college, I expect you to be a doctor." So I was kind of very, like, conditioned in a way, and also my
Yeah.
dad was like, "Anything outside of being a doctor is a failure." He was like, "If you're not gonna be a doctor, you're gonna end up homeless." Like, really extremist views. And then finally what happened was, like, I was in college and I was just like, "What am I doing?" And so I decided to take a semester abroad. I took a semester into Amsterdam,
Yeah.
and it was amazing because it was Amsterdam, they had, like, legalized truffle, like, magic mushroom. So I ended up taking that with some friends in this beautiful
When you
park.
were 18? Like, when you
No,
were, like, a
31.
teenager? Oh,
No,
wow, okay.
this is when I was in college. So, like, when I took that, I had this beautiful moment where there was this, like, child that was, like, neglected in this curled up position, and I, like, went down and, like, hugged her and brought her out in the world, and I just started crying. I realized the cause of my depression was really self-abandonment. Like, I really was like, abandoning my authentic inner child for,
Right.
like, my dad's wishes. So, literally, I told my dad, like, "I'm not gonna be a doctor," and then I also got this nose piercing as a reminder, permanent reminder of, like, what happened in that journey. And my dad
Yeah.
did not take it well. He was like, "Well, I'm gonna disown you," in which case I was just like, "Oh my god." So, yeah, like, my dad's such an extremist.
Wait, okay, so let me just, like, maybe backpedal a little bit. You said that you were in, Amsterdam, and you said that you had, this vision after taking some mushroom. Did you know that you were depressed? Like, because sometimes, when people are in high functioning depression, they don't realize it, right? Like, they just thought that that's, like, stress, that's daily life. Like, how did that experience change your, I guess, your energy level, and also just, like, let you know what is normal, what is not normal?
I think a lot of it was I didn't experience true happiness. So
Mm,
when you're in that level of high functioning depression where you're pushing down all your emotions and feelings and you're just like doing the actions, it comes to a point where like life just feels numb. And then when I
yeah.
took the shrooms, I got elated. I experienced ultimate happiness. And it was the best euphoria of my life. And then I was sitting there like, what am I doing? Like it was opened me up because a lot of humans, like, our level of happiness is, like, here. Like, on the
Yeah.
trip, I experienced, like, this euphoria high, and I was just like, "Whoa, I've never experienced that level of happiness," where I was, like, fully radiating out just, like, happy, joyful, radiant energy. And I've never had that level of happiness before. So for
Mm.
me, it like really set the bar and also made me realize I was in a depressive fog. I think it was just like this robotic state of being. Like I was kind of like a
Yeah.
zombie, just doing all the steps, like going to class, doing this exam, doing this homework, getting these grades, and then striving for like a future.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, so how did you come back? Because, obviously a lot of people experienced adverse reaction after they come back to the real life. Like, they found it really hard to integrate whatever they felt in these kind of journeys into their real life. How did you, because you had an experience in such a young age, right? At the time, like, I think that's considered to be pretty young. And I assume that probably not a lot of people have done it, right, in the States as well when you're back there. How did you integrate that into real life? I know that you kind of had a fallout with your dad, but like, how did you then started to, like, find yourself step by step?
So yeah, I dropped out of pre med and I did like more of a self exploring. like kind of semester. So I took all the classes I would ever be interested in. I took photography, I took psychology, I took
Mm,
marketing, business. I took a bunch of classes. So basically, like university, we're able to have like we're so what is it? I think we're able to drop out of classes and we don't get any uh, like anything on our record if it's within a certain time frame. So I think it's within like the first 4 weeks of the semester. I can't remember, but I remember I just signed up for a bunch of classes, like
mm,
maxed out all the credits I can
mm,
do, and then I went to
mm.
each class. And the ones that like interest me, that got me really excited, I kept. And then the ones that I didn't like, I just started dropping out of. And then just
Right.
really doing that semester of self discovery.
Right, right. And how did you feel inside? The reason why I'm asking this question is because I went through that period. Sometimes I felt like I'm also still going through it, but in much older age, right? Like after I started working and worked a while already. And to me, it was such a anxiety-inducing process, right? Because I was so focused on like achieving my entire life. And this period of life, you just can't achieve a lot of things because you are trying to understand yourself better. But in the meantime, like you have that pressure for yourself. You're like, how come other people are like moving forward in their life and they're like figuring out they want, like they're focused on whatever they want to do and they want to grow as a career, and then you're just like going through different directions and you wonder like when are you ever gonna get out of that? Like have you had that phase? Or how did you overcome it?
I think it's the idea of strategic rest.
Yeah.
I I was such a high performing high school kid. I was taking college classes because there was like this post-secondary education program where you can just
Yeah.
apply for it, and you're able to take college classes for free at the community college while you're in high school. So I had actually enough credits to graduate a semester early. And it was crazy. Like when I started college, I was thinking of finishing college in like 3 years and going off to medical school. Like that was like my
Yeah.
plan. Basically, like maxing out all the credits and doing that. But like at the time, I didn't know there's a thing called burnout because like
Yeah.
I've always so high achieving, and my high school wasn't that challenging. That like I've always got straight A's. I like graduated with over 4.0. And, yeah, so, like, for me, I was just like, "Oh, yeah, I could push myself this," but I didn't know what is burnout. So for me, what happened was, like, I had this buffer because even if I took a semester and just, like, played around, I would still be able to graduate on time. So
Right.
for me, like also the economy went down because I started school, like, college 20 2007 and
Yeah.
then graduated 2011. So, like, uh, 2008, like, basically 2008, 9, like, a lot of people that graduated couldn't find jobs.
Right.
So for me, I was like, "Oh, I'm gonna graduate, like, a year early," and then I was like, "Wait,
Yeah.
but why?" Like, I got, like, a scholarship, so I was just like, "Okay," like, partially my college was paid for, so
Yeah.
why am I graduating early? Like, what's the reason? So I really slowed down because I was like, I have a buffer of a semester worth of credits right now,
Yeah.
and the economy is
Yeah.
really bad. So, like, why don't I just do this self exploration? So, I removed the guilt and shame of the strategic rest I needed because a lot
Yeah.
of times, like, especially with Asian culture, it's just like you have to hyperachieve. Like, basically,
Yeah.
since I had that buffer, I just took a step back. It's also the semester I had in Amsterdam was amazing because, like, during that time, like, I ended up, like, getting into my first really significant relationships. I fell in love. I made some amazing friends. So because of those relationships, I was able to be in a much more, like, fulfilled state instead of just
Yeah.
achieving. So because
Yeah.
of that, yeah, because of that, like, I felt like I was able to pause and really take that rest. And I feel like a lot of the Asian culture, taking a pause, taking a rest, taking a sabbatical is seen as laziness, which is not the case. Like, we're humans, we can't operate at 100% all the time. Like, basically, that would just lead to burnout and depression
Yeah.
and just everything else in the future, and also
Yeah.
health issues. So, like, a lot of the health issues are because of suppression and not really sitting in tune with our bodies and our desires.
Yeah, yeah. So like I think it was great that you had that experience in Amsterdam because it almost I felt like that was a portal for you to see a glimpse of fulfillment when you were, like much younger and you thought there's one way to live your life, which is like going straight, like doing A, B, C, D, E. But then this experience made you realize that, there's other possibilities and perhaps you can be so much happier, right? Being in this state. So like if you can do that, why do you want to tough out this experience and you're not very sure if you even want it, right? So like I think that sometimes and another thing I find about high achievers is almost it's the reason why they're so high achieving sometimes is that they don't want to face themselves, right? Because they have that
Mhm.
like inner emptiness, inner anxiety, and if they just stop and they sit with themselves that they can't face it, right? They don't want that kind of feelings. So as a
Mhm.
result of it, they just want to push it through. But like if you never sit with yourself, like you never know what truly makes you happy, like you will have nothing else but burnout, right? Because that will be because you like I heard this saying last year that says that if you want to be happy, you gotta prioritize your own happiness. Which is
Mhm.
a very cliche thing to say, but it's true because like if you look at your life every single day, when were the moments where you prioritize your own happiness? And if you don't even do these actions, of course you're not going to be happy, right? Like, say if you have two choices, one is to like work, power through like 10, 12 hours a day. Another choice is like taking small breaks and like consciously schedule time to catch up with your friends. Are you doing that? Right? Because if you're not doing that, like you're not going to be happy. Like it's just such small thing, but nobody does it.
Well, the thing is, people don't know what makes them happy. Like, they haven't
Yeah.
done that self-exploration of what makes you happy. Like, if you have been like only doing what other people told you that you need to do, then
Yeah.
how do you know what is happiness? How do
Yeah.
you know what makes you happy? How do you know what you even want? Like, I remember when I was working at Deutsche Bank, like there was this woman that used to work for corporate investment banking side, which is front office, and then she got switched over to commodities.
Yeah.
And so she went from like working 80 hours a week to actually being able to leave at 6 p.m. Like the manager was just like, "Hey, like you do realize you're able to leave after 6 p.m. Like you don't need to stay back behind
Yeah.
all the time." And then her response was, "But what am I going to do with all the time?" Like that was her response because like she
Yeah.
didn't have a life outside of work because she was
Yeah.
trained to basically
Yeah.
be high achieving. So she did
Yeah.
everything else high achieving. And then when she got into corporate investment banking, she was working the 80 hours because everybody else was working the 80
Yeah.
hours. But then she got switched over to like,
It's
commodities. The
easier.
manager, yeah, the manager was just like, you don't have to stay. And then she was just like, I just don't know what to do with my time because she had no life outside of work. She
Yeah.
didn't plan
Yeah.
on a life outside of work. So it
Well,
got her to really start figuring out what is she going to do in her evening time.
yeah, I mean, I think sometimes it's also, once you start to repeat all these behaviors, become part of your identity, right? And then it's almost like, who am I if I'm not working at 7 p.m.? Like, who am I if I'm not this person who, like, you take so much pride in just like being this powerhouse of working. You have the shame and guilt of even take some time for yourself, right? Which is so natural to all of us, should be very natural to all of us as human beings. So I'm just very curious, like, how did you navigate the relationship with your dad? Because, obviously that was such a big change, right? So, like, I don't know, if I were him, I would probably think that, I have a star child who's got like more than 4.0 GPA when she was in college. And now all of a sudden she's like, I don't want to do this anymore. I don't know what I want to do. Like, I will be panicking so much. Not only is because like there is a lack of certainty of your path, but also it's like a part of it is lack of control from his path, right? Like, he doesn't know how to control you anymore. So like
Mhm.
how did he react to that? And also how did you react to his reaction?
Oh, I knew he was gonna like disown me and not take it well. So for me, I was just like, so I told him I was dropping out of pre-med, and he like threatened to like not pay for my school anymore. And I was like, I don't care. So I took out my own loan because I got pre-approved for like $40,000 from Chase.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because, like, I opened up my Chase bank account because I got, like, a scholarship. I got a
Right.
$2,000 scholarship, and so I opened up my first Chase account at age 16, and then I built up my credit score because I was, like,
Right.
working, and so, like, basically, they pre-approved me of, like, $40,000 for student loan. So I took
Yeah.
that, And then I started doing all the things I wanted to do because I realized I like I was miserable following my father's path. Like I was so
Yeah.
depressed. But when I studied abroad in Amsterdam, I was so much happier. Like I was so much happier. And then I just kind of remembered that sense of euphoria I had. So I've just been pursuing that. Like there's actually four motivators for a lot of people. It's like, success, like, making a lot of money, tradition,
Mm-hmm.
which is like another one, helping people. And then the fourth is like pleasure. And that's more mine. It's like basically coming to myself, discovery, travel, like enjoyment of life. And I feel like a lot more
Yeah.
Gen Z and Gen Alpha is in that path. Like right now, it's
Right.
okay to take mini retirements and sabbaticals and go travel the world because we have
Yeah.
that at our fingertips. Our previous generation, like our parents to travel was such a hassle. You have to like call like, travel agents. Like there's not many hotels at the time. Like
Yeah.
how do you even get from like point A to point B? Versus like now it's like you have booking.com, kayak.com, you have AI that can
Yeah.
help you make an itinerary. So like
Yeah.
so yeah, it's amazing versus way back when. So like that opportunity of traveling and really having the world in your fingertips wasn't really available. So because
Right.
of us getting access to social media and internet, we can see how other people are living. Before it was just like the TV and I was like, this is our life. We're working in the office. This is what's presented. But now we have all these influencers living these amazing lives. Like this is my life here. This is my life here. And
Yeah.
then you're like, wow, this is great.
Yeah, I think that is really, like as you said, like Gen Z and Gen Alpha, like there is, they're digital native and some of them are like AI native, right? And
Yeah.
so to them, that is a lot more like acceptable. Like they just, this is their way of living. I think the generations that have problems adjusting to that is our generation, like the millennials and maybe like generations before us. Even though you live in this era, as you said, like you have all these tools at your fingertip, like your mind is the first thing that need to be changed, right? Because if you
Yeah.
don't have that mindset, like you live in a self-imposed prison, you're not going to even use whatever is available out there. And this is where you feel like, like what a shame that all this human potential is wasted because they can do all these things, but they don't allow themselves to do these things, right?
Yeah, that's the thing. Like, I feel like the younger generation, they're seeing outside of like the paradigm because like we have YouTube, we have TikTok, we have
Yeah.
Instagram. So they're seeing how all these different people live now. Our parents' generation, they were lucky to have a color TV. So
Yeah.
like and the color TV was like
Especially in
very
China,
scary.
right?
Yeah, especially in China. Yeah, so basically, I remember Brady Bunch was like a thing. So like they grew up with that like idea of like, oh, having children, having a life like that. But
Yeah.
now there's like all these people living alternative lives, and there's all these movements of like, living like basically FIRE is one. It's like basically where you basically save up as much money as you can and retire early.
Yeah.
Especially since there's all these changes right now. Like the old paradigm of pensions is non-existent. The old paradigm of like,
Yeah.
401 if you do a 401k, yeah, like when you retire, it's gonna be like 1.2 million, but what can 1.2 million buy you in
Yeah.
the next 15 years, given the fact of like inflation and like everything else that's going on? Like, would it be worth it at that point? Like, oh
Yeah.
yeah, you have 1.2 million, but guess what? Coffee costs $100 now. Like, what? So
Yeah.
is it
Yeah.
really that much? So
Also, I honestly just think that the US particularly is going to be like it's already so expensive. I was in New York and a bottle of Gatorade is $6, It's not
mm,
even that big bottle of Gatorade and it's just like I just don't understand how people live there, right? At this point, like let alone in the future. So I think that people like not only people would have different lifestyles, but also, like I think that I wish they could explore different geographic locations like Southeast Asia before I left China because I thought, life in North America is so much better. And I went to Canada and now you look at Canada, it's like they're not getting any richer. In fact, they're not moving at all in the last 10 years. So, and I live in Singapore. Singapore is one of the richest countries in the world and it's like super safe. And if you go anywhere in East Asia or like Southeast Asia, the value for money is so much higher.
So I just
Hmm.
felt like, why do you need to live in a city like New York or San Francisco, like when it's so expensive, especially when you're retired, like you don't actually need to work in like a major city like that.
Hmm. I think that's the thing. It's just like we are so lucky to be in Southeast Asia because my money goes so much further in Bali. Like
Yeah.
I was just being with two friends from LA and we just had this lavish feast. Like we ordered like so many different dishes, just everything. And everything was great and amazing because like Bali
Yeah.
just has the best foodie experience.
Yeah.
And I joked with them. I was like, yeah, this whole our feast probably cost like, one meal at Cafe Gratitude in Venice, which is like, it's almost equivalent of that. So like, it's just yeah, so I've just been so lucky to be in Bali and Southeast Asia because I have all these savings from working in the States. Like in the States, like the pay is really good because if you're working like
Yeah.
a real like job, like a real like, office job, a lot of times like they're paying you like upwards of like $8,000 a month. So
Yeah.
taking that here like really, really helps in terms of saving. But also like again, cost of living is absurd. Like here in Bali, like $1,000 will get you like a two-bedroom, like lavish villa. In New
You
York,
can buy nothing.
$3,000 per month is a closet. So it just shows the difference right there. But I also think like what's happening right now is like a lot of people are becoming more digital nomads. Like the COVID did great in terms of like having
Yeah.
everybody work from anywhere. So I feel like the younger generation, they're gonna incorporate more of those like remote work paradigm.
Yeah, for sure. Going back to, I'm very curious about your Asian household experience because the first time I heard you talk about it, I was like just shocked because parents are the way they think about life is just so traditional. Like even to me, even though like I'm from China too, right? That was something from the 60s, like not from the 2000s. So growing up in a traditional Asian household, how was your sexuality or femininity treated or
Okay. So
ignored?
So this is the thing. My father literally was just like, it was so kind of just so traditional. It's like if you're not a virgin until marriage, no man will want you. Like that was his motto to me all the time. And I'm just like, what the hell is this? And what it did for me was like it tied my self-worth to my virginity. So like for
Yeah.
a long time I like felt like I needed to keep it. And then when I went off to Amsterdam and I like fell in love for the first time, I was like, what am I doing? Like, holding on to this. So I was like, this is ridiculous because like all my friends were definitely not virgins and they definitely were going on dates. So I'm like, this is an
You're
old,
like you guys are unmarriable. You guys cannot find a husband.
oh my God. It's actually pretty hilarious because like when my dad came over to Spain and then I was with my like cousins and stuff like that, my aunts and uncles, my aunt was so sweet. She was just like, "Oh, do you have a boyfriend?" I'm like, "No, I can't date because like my dad, like, believes I need to be a virgin until marriage." And she berated my dad. She's like, "How dare you have all these traditional views?" And I was just like, "Damn." So it was good because it was a realization that like it was just not normal. Like I thought this was normal Chinese upbringing, but when you told me it was super strict, like,
Yeah.
I was just like, "Whoa." So it gives me a validation that, like, what I underwent was, like, not normal because, like, I remember, like, my femininity and sexuality was really shut down. But then when I went off
Yeah.
to Amsterdam, fell in love, I really started experimenting more, coming into myself and, like, really going into my flow. And I think that's really, really helpful. I think
Yeah.
having that I had like a really beautiful sexual revolution, and I think women having that and choosing it is very key because I like chose like who I wanted to be with. I chose like, like to be the one that initiated. So it
Yeah.
was wonderful and beautiful how it happened because and it was empowering for me because a lot of times like a lot of people's first times is actually really not that great and it catches them like, by surprise. For me, I was just like, this is what I want, this is with who, and this is like I'm ready. I was just like ready. So I felt
Right.
like it was empowering and I like basically opened myself more. And then I realized sexuality is just fun. It's great, but like also doing it with intention because for me, like I am so sensitive to energies and people. So I'm like very
Yeah.
intentional about like
No, I think so you mentioned that, this virginity thing. was from your dad mentioned to you that you should keep it. It's actually now I think about that topic. I think that it is kind of like a Chinese value. So even when I was growing up, in the 90s and 2000s, and people would say that to me. Maybe they
Mm,
don't say it directly, but then you hear people talking about other girls who are like, like in high school, oh my gosh, like this girl's a slut, like she slept with people. And we're not supposed to sleep with anyone until you were an adult. And even then, you're not supposed to sleep with multiple people. You know what I mean? It's like there's guys who will be like, well, like I don't really want to date you if you slept with, I don't know, more than two people. Like they do have that kind of stigma around sexuality. And you are supposed to, like, I think that just, like the whole sexual expression too, you're supposed to be like this good girl even in bed, right? Like you're not supposed to be crazy or whatever, like, and because that will signal that you have slept with too many guys. So like the whole thing is just very suppressed, right? And
yeah.
I think that we internalize a lot. And also like there's parents, for example, like I have some family members when their dogs and her innocence so that you gotta pay us a fee. So I mean that's real story. So I think there's still a lot of people holding on to the idea.
Oh, wow. It's a dowry system if you think about it. It's just like the idea that like, your daughter is a virgin, so you give us like 10 cows because she's still a virgin kind of thing. It's that dowry
Yeah.
system, but it's obsolete right now. We have no dowry system. Also, like we have birth control right now because a lot of it was like
Yeah.
they didn't really have a formal education about children. So they're
Yeah.
like, oh, lineage, children, like, children out of bedwa like so basically for like us, like we got educated. Like you can actually get pregnant only 2 days out of the month. It's like when like you're
Yeah.
ovulating, but like the sperm can exist inside of a woman for like a week. So that's why there's
Yeah.
like a whole entire fertility window. But technically, we can only get pregnant 2 days out of the month. So like a lot of
Right.
us are educated in that. And then there's like a natural rhythm. There's birth controls right now. So like it gives a lot of female empowerment on
Yeah.
this. And I think the old paradigm was because like, it's that lineage and legacy because it's like you're giving birth to offsprings and everything else.
Yeah.
But yeah, like, I feel like that kind of construct is going out the window because now a lot more people are being more liberal, more free, and also sexuality is the deepest expression of love and connection, and it's also a
Yeah.
miracle. It's like pure alchemy because you're transmuting love into life if you think about it. Like
Yeah. And
literally transmute love into life.
I think it's just such a shame that so many people have lived their life and not fully see themselves or express themselves, right? And sex is just really kind of a self-expression way to understand who you are. And I think that a lot of it, like again, in the Asian culture, I felt like a lot of a woman's value is tied into sexuality, like her sexuality, right? So like it's almost like, to your dad's point, like I think that in his head, he's probably just thinking like, oh, like the higher, like if you're a virgin, you have the highest value. And if you're
Mhm.
not, then it's like your value is lower. And if you get a divorce, your value is even lower in that market. And I think a lot of women just carry that shame with them, right? So like they like it took me a long time to like get out of my head too on that one, where
Yeah.
like because you know how like guys talk about their body count as if it's like something they're so proud of. But if you're like women, you talk about your body count, they're like, ew, you're such a whore. Like, so you're like, oh, you maybe I am a whore, like you do have this kind of shame. And it's really hard to get out unless you empower yourself, right? Nobody else is going to be like, hey, like, like you don't be ashamed of it. You're doing a good job. Nobody can tell you that.
Well, the thing is, if you think about it, it's like a weird game. It's like a game where the woman doesn't give it up because she's trying to keep her number low, and then a game where the guys are trying to have their numbers high. And it's like, what game is this? Is anybody winning this game? Like, why do we even have this game? Like, it's
Yeah, yeah.
weird. I think it's like it's becoming less and less a thing right now because I think what is it? Like Match.com has a horrible time with Gen Z. Like the younger generation, they can't penetrate that market. because they want something more intentional. They don't want hookup culture. That's why Tinder is
Yeah.
going down. That's
Yeah.
why
Yeah.
like a lot of their stock value has really decreased because they can't penetrate
Yeah.
Gen Alpha and Gen Z because they don't want the hookup culture. So Gen Z and Gen Alpha already know that they want something more intentional. They don't
Yeah.
want to do like the whole entire hookup thing, and they don't value the whole entire numbers count thing. They
Yeah.
are so basically as a generation, they're waking up and I
Yeah.
think it's
Yeah.
great that they're like really really having impact on like Match.com's
Yeah.
numbers. Like Tinder hasn't been that well. Like a lot of my friends stopped using Tinder because it's known as a hookup app. So a lot of people have
Yeah.
moved to Hinge where it's like more relationship oriented. So that's the thing. Like I love that.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. It definitely seems like a generation that is a lot more spiritual and connected to themselves. So, your experience at Burning Man, as you mentioned, was a turning point that led you to leave investment banking. What insights did you have there that prompt such a life change?
I think because I ran into so many people that were so happy with life, like living life in euphoria,
Yeah.
and they're doing the things that they want to do. They're like artists, designers, so it's great. Like I love and adore them for that.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Interesting.
And also it broke the paradigm because like my dad was like, if you don't become a doctor, you're gonna end up homeless. Like it's really extremist views. And then there's all these people that like, I'm a designer, I'm an artist, and I'm all this. And I'm like, wow, you guys are
It's like,
really
how do you
doing
make
well.
money? How come you're
Yeah.
not homeless? According to my
Yeah.
dad, you guys should be homeless.
Yeah. So like basically for me, like it was yeah, like that's the thing when I told my dad I was like dropping out of pre-med. Really, my dad told my mom, it was like, "We need to marry her while she's still young and pretty." It was like and I was like, "What the hell?" So that's why, like, I was, like, opposed to marriage because I was just like they didn't really value me at all for, like, my intellect, my creativity. They were just like, "We need to marry her." The irony is this, since I broke away from the paradigm, my siblings were like, "We can do this too." None of my sisters are married with children. They've all
Yeah.
decided to like do their own lives actually. So
Yeah.
out of everybody in our family, they're the only ones without grandchildren. So it's kind of like karmatic in a way.
Yeah. Well, so like it's also funny how like he wanted you to be a doctor and he wanted you to be high achieving, but in the end he was like, "Oh, we could also just marry her off like when she's young and pretty." It is such a mixed signal, right? It's like, do you
It's
want me
such a
to be
mixed
a self
signal.
yeah, do you want me to be a self-sufficient woman or do you want me to be, like a piece of belonging to a man? Like what is that, right? Cuz
No,
you
he
kind of
wanted
need to
both.
choose one path.
No, he wanted both. It was like he like wanted me to be a doctor just for the status. Like he was so
Yeah.
status not external validation seeking.
Yeah.
And then because I remember my sister, like she nearly killed herself to get into Ivy League school because she also graduated like really high. She actually graduated valedictorian. So
Yeah.
I was just like, she spent so much like in terms of like essays and everything else for like Princeton, Harvard, Yale, and she got waitlisted at all the Ivy Leagues. Either she got rejected or waitlisted.
That is very
And then
painful.
very painful. But like that's the thing it was super interesting because for me, like I just kind of did my own thing. Like she tried to follow my father's path and just put in all that effort and work only to get waitlisted. But then she ended up picking a university that was better for her and she was happier because of it.
Mm.
But that's the thing, like it's that high achievingness just for status because my dad wanted it's like pushing my younger sister to get into Ivy League
Yeah.
just so he could tell people that he had a daughter that went to Ivy League. And I'm like, so you pushed my sister through months of hell for these like,
Yeah.
applications just to tell random strangers that you don't even know and they don't even care about you that your
Yeah.
child goes to an Ivy League school.
Yeah.
Like, what is the ROI of that? Yeah, like,
Yeah.
what really? So, it just goes back to the old paradigms, like, it's just like bragging rights, like, I remember there was this one documentary of these high achieving Asians, and, like, the daughter would get, like, a perfect SAT score, and instead of the parents celebrating them, they're like, "Okay, now we expect you this," like, there's no celebration, there's, like, no
Mm, mm.
"Congrats, you're done." They just
Yeah.
raise the bar higher and, like, move the
Yeah.
carrot first
Yeah, because they don't want them to be too prideful and arrogant, and then they forget that there's another mountain to climb, right? They want them to like stay humble, and so that they can keep working harder and stuff like that. That's like kind of the traditional Confucius value, but I think it could be very harmful just because
Mhm.
you just feel like you're always on a treadmill, right? And you
Yeah.
can't stop, and there's always people that's better than you. Like it's just not a way to live life.
Yeah. Yeah. Then he came to the realization that my father didn't know who the hell I was. Like, he
Yeah,
had no understanding of who I was. I remember we got in an argument because my dad was like, "I want you to be a doctor." I was like, "But I want to travel. That's what I want to do." And he's like, "Well, like you can travel when you retire." I was like, "But that's when I'm gonna be old. Like, I don't want to retire and be traveling in like a wheelchair.
yeah.
Like, no, I want to live my best lives traveling." And then so we got in a huge argument and I won. Pure logically won. I like won the argument. And then he later said to me, like at the end, because he lost the argument and his pride could not handle it. So he just said, "Well, don't come to me when you're looking for a husband." And I just like,
Why
what?
would I come to you?
I was like, in what reality would I come to you looking for a husband? Like, in what reality would I ever do that? Because you don't know who the hell I am. I'm not into
Yeah.
Asian men. And
Yeah.
no, like the guy that you're gonna pick is the guy that I'm never gonna be in love. So like,
Right.
so yeah,
He
like
had no
especially
power.
yeah, he has no power there. And also it was just ridiculous. I'm like, in what delusional reality do you live in where I would ever come to you desperate looking for a husband? Do you not hear of anything that I talked about? Like how I wanted to travel? Like
So I think
yeah.
he didn't hear anything you talk about, right? That's probably like he's probably just like, whatever. Like it's just a phase, he's just gonna come around.
Well, that's the thing, like, because my mom was so like traditional, like they were raised in such a traditional village. So they were like, oh, for women, the daughter definitely needs to get married just to have status and value. Like, and they need to have like sons and this. So he just had this whole entire like programming running on
Yeah.
autopilot. And I was
Yes.
not part of the program. So he's like basically like directing a script and I
Yeah.
decided to walk off stage. I was
Yeah.
like, this is the script you're gonna get. And I'm just like, I don't like the script. I
No.
burned it, leave the stage, and then just do my own thing. Like I walked off stage already and he's like still
Yeah.
like reading off the script, thinking that I'm gonna act on that script. It's like, no, I've already off the stage. Like, no.
He didn't know that it's not a glitch. It was just a different programming. Not a glitch in his program.
Yeah. And that's the thing, like I think because of me being so empowered, like my siblings really took note. So like none of them really want to have children. And what's really hilarious is like my younger sister came out that she was a lesbian after she graduated. So that was a shock for my parents. But the thing is they don't
Oh my
accept it
God.
either. They don't accept it. They thought it was just a phase. So my sister
Yeah.
literally just shaved all her hair, went
Oh
bald,
my
got
God.
tattoos and
Oh,
piercings. So like so they're
that
like
hurts.
yeah,
Yeah.
it was just literally like they're like, I was just the face. So she just like went all butch. She's like, nope, all butch.
I just felt like it seems like your parents probably need a lot of therapy. But again, a lot of them don't believe in therapy. So I'm not sure how they're dealing with it. That's a lot. That is a lot to deal with.
They're just really desperate right now. Like, so apparently my siblings kept on getting calls from my mom asking if they want to be match made. Like they're like so desperate for grandchildren right now. They're like contacting my other sister and my two younger brothers to be match made. And all of them are like, no, we don't want to be match
Of
made by
course
random
not.
people. Yeah. But that's like their paradigm. My parents, like my mom's just like, oh, we need marriage, you need this. And it's like, no, we don't. Like, why do we want that? Like why
They're
do I
like,
need
but
marriage?
how about our 10 grandkids? We want, we need, we
Yeah,
must
yeah,
have
yeah.
it to show off to our friends. They need to see us having grandkids.
Yeah. But
Yeah. Anyway, so okay, so let's just talk about your transition from banking to become a digital nomad, and also, now that you're in tech and VR, it's pretty unconventional, right? Because, I assume at the time, like VR was not really a thing. So what challenge did you face during that shift? First of all, I wanted to know what ignited that, and also what challenge did you face during the shift and how did you overcome them?
So I think what was really beneficial for me is like the fact that I've like always been in the tech space. I was always tech literate. And
Yeah.
what helped me was like the fact that even though I was working in investment banking, I was more on the tech side. So I created systems of reporting and requesting for Deutsche Bank. And
Yeah.
then I was just so tech inclined. Like for me, like I didn't understand it. Like didn't understand why people didn't know how to do things. They didn't know how to use technology. Technology just comes super intuitive for me. Like when AI came out, I just started
Mhm.
using AI, prompting AI, and
Yeah.
like creating art with AI. And people are like, "How are you able to do this?" I'm like, "I just talk to AI." And they're like, "But when I put in the same prompts, it doesn't get like that." I'm like, "Well, like you have to change it and do this. Like you have to think how AI is gonna think, and you just have to backtrack and like think about how the engineering's done and what the training model is, and then you can like basically put certain words and get what you want." And they're just like, "Wait, what?" And they're like, "Your brain thinks like that?" And I'm like, "Yeah, like because I have a background in like JavaScript and website design.
Yeah.
So for me, it's like I understand technology, and I realized tech and literacy is a skill set. Like I
Mm.
didn't know that because I like it's funny because I went to one of the top schools for medicine. That was also one of
Yeah.
the top schools for tech. So it was like an engineering medical undergrad. So everybody I was talking to was like a developer. So we were talking tech all the time. And
You're
I
right.
realized it put me in a bubble because I just assumed everybody had these tech skills. Like they knew
Yeah.
how to like torrent things. They knew how to like basically code stuff. They like knew how to do this and that. Then I realized, whoa, like a lot of people don't have these.
Hmm. Yeah. So to you, that was just very natural, right? And I think that a lot of times it's almost like the more you connect with yourself, the more fluid they are with AI and just new technologies, right? Like if you have a lot of imagination, for example, you can make a lot more things happen. But if you don't allow your own imagination to flow, it's almost like there's an invisible barrier between you and this piece of technology. Like I think that the more attuned it actually helps you to use the technology to get things done versus like if you just like study the mechanic pieces in it and then you don't really know the soul of it, like you're not going to be the best at using that piece of mechanics, if that makes sense. That's just what I noticed. So you did a viral VR video which
Yeah.
garnered around like over 100 million views. Okay, so first of all, tell me about it because I'm very curious about how you did it. And also, how did
So
that impact your career trajectory?
So basically, it was this game called Beat Saber. I was working for this company called Live, which is doing mixed reality. So it puts the player inside the game. Like we shoot in front of a
Yeah.
green screen, and then the headset's used to mark where the player's at. So it does the foreground rendering and the background rendering. So it makes it look like you're actually in the game because it sandwiches the player in. That was the technology that we were showcasing. So we got this game called Beat Saber, which is like this like cube lightsaber game. And then we ended up playing the game and I so I'm a dancer, so I started doing expert level
Yeah.
on the game and it went viral because I was wearing a really awesome dress. I looked like I was just flying through the game and just dancing with the game. So everybody like loved it and then it just went viral like crazy. So I became like an internet celebrity for a while and then I got to be like a VR star. So I basically went around talking about virtual reality and the future of VR. I became like a really like a thought leader in VR. So it's great. It really changed my career trajectory. And then I got hired to work for this self-care game publisher company,
Yeah.
which was really cool because like how we did our onboarding was we took an ayahuasca ceremony all together with the founders. So
That's
that was really
crazy.
cool.
What?
It was amazing actually because I already done ayahuasca at that point. So like they were like
Yeah.
super spiritual. They believe that VR could be used as a way for deeper healing. So we had a meditation experience,
Yeah.
all this other stuff. Yeah.
I mean, I can see the linkage between these two, right? Just because, like, you can experience so much more with VR and, that otherwise it's not available in your own reality. But that was so innovative where, like, they had an ayahuasca ceremony for onboarding because I can see how that could also deepen the bond of people together.
It was really interesting. It was like the birth of a company because we like decided like they had another name and then they decided to change the name
Yeah.
because like they found out there was another company that like was similar. So they decided to change it. So we basically had this whole entire like vision quest to change the name and the branding of the company. So yeah, it was really, really cool. It was amazing.
Yeah, so I know that you just came back from Sri Lanka. So maybe just tell us a bit about how you live your life right now, because I'm really curious about your lifestyle. I know that you were in Thailand before that and you were in Bali and then, and now that you're back to Bali. So first of all, like how did you design your life and to know like which is the next destination to go? And also I'm very curious about your Sri Lankan experience. It sounds like you had almost like epiphany when you were there.
It was like a spiritual journey. It was like very divinely orchestrated by the universe because everything just happened so smoothly. Well, okay, so my life right now is like I work for Earth Lab. It's a remote company. We're doing a global movement. We're like hosting an event in LA 2026 to revitalize LA after the fires. Because what happened
Mm,
was like I sold all my stuff and like sold my car, left LA, and I was like, I'm gonna move back to Bali because I was here during COVID and I love Bali and just like wasn't really feeling LA anymore. And then I came here and the fires happened and I was like really stressed out, like, oh my God, worried for my friends, like worried about them.
yeah.
Was like obsessively watching Instagram to make sure that my friends were evacuating and like safe and stuff like that. Then what happened is I ended up meeting this wonderful woman named Cassandra. And like used to host like events with Coachella, E3, Uber, Red
Yeah.
Bull. And she's like, I feel a huge spiritual calling to do a huge conscious event of rebirth in LA to revitalize LA. And I'm like, that is amazing. And she's like, do you want to be one of the founders and do this with me? And I was like, okay, like it's hilarious where I'm
Yeah.
I'm
Sounds
leaving
sounds so
LA.
cool.
Yeah, I'm leaving LA. Like I'm like going to move to Bali. And then all of a sudden she did the same thing. She got out of a divorce. She sold her car, sold up everything, moved to Bali. And then we met. And then she's like, I feel a calling to go back to LA and help out LA. And I'm just like, the universe sometimes. So I'm working for them now. I'm creating visuals. I am creating decks. I'm doing like, pitches for like Coinbase and OpenAI and stuff like that. And like basically this week I'm flying back to LA for a friend's wedding. And then after that
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to Portugal to a friend's festival. And then after that I'm gonna come back and start doing more investor meetings and pitches in LA because
Mm.
LA has just more money and more people versus Bali. It's just like people here are not really here to work. They're like here to like
No, they're
discover
not.
themselves, heal, and like
Yeah. Yeah.
rest and retire.
Yeah.
And for me, I feel like I do my mini retirements here, and now the universe is calling me back. So I feel like there's
Yeah.
like a hilarious thing was like I decided I'd move to Bali, and the universe is like, nope, you're karmatically needed in LA. So I have such
Yeah.
deep connection to LA because of my community there. And this feels
Yeah.
so much in alignment because of like mixing the Burning Man element because we're doing like a Gaia dome at Burning Man where we're bringing a lot of like our Earth Lab art and like things there and we're hosting talks and like tea lounges there so people are aware of it. So people start talking about it. They like start following us. They start joining us on our journeys and joining us in our movements. So another thing that we're doing is like we're also taking a component of creating our own app in our own online community. So people get to kind of meet each other before the event even starts. And then afterwards, we're going to transition a lot of the attendees to do impact work, like basically ways to get involved with the community. So it actually has a more sustainable effect instead of like
Mm.
the current festival environment where like everybody just comes together and then disperses. So we're
Right.
mixing technology with like the ancient wisdoms and like making an impact.
Right. That sounds so amazing. And it sounds like it's almost like you, whatever you're passionate about and your value and whatever, it's that whole ikigai, right? Like that is, but also I think on top of ikigai, it's almost like you also have a element that is lifestyle. Not only are you doing something that you like, but you're also like your entire lifestyle is also something that you've designed. And it
Hmm.
seems like you have a lot of flexibility in not just moving around, but like, the nature of work and, like your own pace. So all these things are like there's a lot of autonomy behind your life. So was that a conscious move where, when you're picking and choosing what you wanted to do and people you wanted to work with, you have a process behind or it just naturally happened?
So I think a lot of it was like doing that like soul wrenching soul discovery thing where like after investment banking, I went traveling around Southeast Asia and then New Zealand and Australia for a bit. And it really came to myself because I wanted to break away from the paradigm of money because my parents are
Yeah.
so addicted to money. So one of the things I wanted to do is like, how am I going to live without money? Let me see. And I ran
Yeah.
into this group of people that were hosting a rainbow gathering where you just live in the woods in this amazing community and you get like meals and everything by donation. So I did that for 2 weeks and I met these amazing souls that were like musicians. I would just bust for money. And then essentially they were just so happy because I remember when I was working in investment banking, there was this guy. I thought he was like 40 something. And then we started talking and I realized he was 28. He had a beer belly, he was bald, his skin doesn't look that good. And I'm like, you're 28? And I'm like, no, like I'm like, whoa. And these people were just happy, like so happy, and they looked beautiful and radiating versus the people I was working with. They looked like zombies. So I was just like, oh. So like it was good to have that contrast. So for me, I was like always on the path of like designing my life that's more aligned to who I am. Like I
Mm,
never want to work at a job where they require me to be in the office 5 days out of the week. I
mm.
never want to work a job like that basically is super like rigid and have all these rules. So my job's amazing right now because like it's very creative, it's impact based, it's about community and everything else. So yeah.
Yeah. So tell us about your journey in Sri Lanka. Tell us about
Okay.
the people you met, the souls you met, and also the lessons you took away from it.
Okay, so like Sri Lanka was like a mystical journey. Like I wasn't supposed to be there, but then like I already had this trip planned to Thailand for work, and then my villa got mold, so I ended up moving everything out within 24 hours, and then it was like in storage, and then the AI mastermind I was a part of, the instructor decided to end the course early. So there was no reason for me to come back to Bali. So I was just like, where do I go? Like I had a flight back to Bali and I was like, I don't
Yeah.
know where I'm supposed to go. And then also in Sri Lanka kept on coming up. Like people kept on telling me about Sri Lanka. And I'm like, am I supposed to go to Sri Lanka? And there's like this energetic pull. So I just booked the last minute ticket, went to Sri Lanka, like literally booked it and then got on a flight the next day, went to Sri Lanka. And then I decided to ask, yeah, like what is there to do that's like really spiritual, given everything that you know about me and what I really love? Tell me what it is. And it was like the Bodhi tree. So I ended up making my way up to the Bodhi tree. And when I got there, there was like a crowd of people there. And I was like, wow, I guess it's Sunday. So that's why there's a crowd of people. And then finally I was like sitting down, getting some food, and these like old, like, sweet women came over and they're like curious about me, like where I'm from, because I'm the only Sri Lankan, non-Sri Lankan person there. And I told them like, oh, like, from the States, I'm living in Bali right now. And then finally they're like, I was like, where are you guys from? They're like, oh, we're from this like, village and it's like 7 hours by train. I'm like, you guys come every week
Mm,
7 hours to worship? You guys are so devoted. And they're like, no, it's actually the holiest mm, like week of festivities because this is the week that Buddhism came to Sri Lanka.
mm.
And I'm like,
Yeah.
wait, what? And they're like, yeah, so there's going to be like an elephant parade. There's going to be this. And then the Bodhi tree, there's going to be like 300,000 people there and people are camping overnight. And I realized it's like it's like a festival. It's like the old festivals
Yeah.
of the past because it's like 300,000 people just camping there, sleeping on the ground, sleeping on tarps in the temple grounds. And then they were praying 24 hours. There was chants. There was free food given out. I'm like, whoa, this is like a Sri Lankan Burning Man. It's like super
Yeah.
spiritual. Like everybody's doing their own thing. They came with intention. There's like hundreds of thousands of people there, and free food is given out. And I'm just like, whoa! And I realized festivals are the modern adoption of these gatherings because that's how people meet each other. Like they fall in
Yeah.
love or like meet other people and
Yeah.
become friends and stuff like that because it was a huge nexus point of all these people. So I ended up going to this ashram and then meeting this yogi, and he's the one that told me about this like Stargate that was there. So he took me to the Stargate, and then eventually, like I felt a calling to do this Shiva temple that he told me about, and he's just like, I don't know if we can go. Like there's the festival, so all the roads are going to be blocked, and like it's probably not even possible for us to get there. I was like, well, we should at least try. So we went, and he was surprised. He was like, you have no idea how easy that was. Like usually there's obstacles and usually during
Mm.
the festivities, like all the roads are blocked. None of the roads
Yeah.
are blocked. And then when we got there, there was a Swami. And apparently the Swami's not there all the time. He just so happened to be there for that morning. He was only there for a couple of hours. Like, so we just,
Wow.
like, it was orchestrated by the universe where, like, I got to meet the Swami.
All stars align.
Yeah, and then he was just like, "Oh, do you want to do like a session with him?" I was like, "What do I need for the session? Do I need to give donations?" He's like, "No, it's like you have to do this thing where like you have to offer like 8 different types of fruit." And he's like, "And I don't know whether or not we can find a fruit stand, so we have to go back into town. He's only available for the next couple of hours. So we have to go back into town to find a fruit stand that's actually open because it's like the holiest week, so everything's closed by that point." And I'm like, "Oh gosh." But luckily, on our way back to town, we discovered a stand that was open, but they only had 7 fruits. So we like picked up 7 fruits, and then we went to another place that had coconuts. So we put some coconuts in there. So we took it over, and then the Swami gave me a reading, and it was really deep. Like he acknowledged that I inherited a lot of karma from my parents, and also I have a lot of past life karma. And a lot of it is now the density of it is releasing because I've come into
Mm.
like a deeper healing journey. And now I'm coming to my expansion budding conscious era. And he basically affirmed a lot of things like basically of like my soul blueprint and everything else, like, my values, my traits, and just things I'm conditioned to do. Like, and the yogi heard what he said about my soul blueprint. So he
Yeah.
told me to go down south to meet up with this monk at this monastery. He's like a founder of this monastery. I'm like, okay. So I literally just got on the train and
Yeah.
went down to this
So
monastery.
yeah, maybe just like educate us a little bit because you told me that. But what is a soul blueprint for people who don't know that?
So soul blueprint is like, so you know how babies, like certain ones are just
Yeah.
extroverted, very excitable, and they look around and other babies are like crying and they're like super shy and stuff like that. The soul already has a blueprint of like who it is. Like basically there's certain attributes about the soul that makes it really unique. So it's
Yeah.
like a blueprint of an architectural drawing. Like so think about an architect with the blueprint for a building. A soul blueprint is like what your like conditions and values are, like who
Yeah.
you are naturally, what's your passion, what's your drive, what's your like, personality type, what's your like gifts and skill sets. So a lot of it comes
Right.
through already. Like there's like savant children that just get born and they automatically know how to play the piano. So
Like the Dalai Lama
yeah, yeah, yeah. So like
chosen to be. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. So it's like our soul blueprint. So I went down to this monastery and I met up with this monk, and then instantly we're like hitting it off. And then finally, like the next day, I was like talking to him and I was talking about like how every 3 years I feel like I change up my life, either I move or switch
Yeah.
companies. And he's like, I've had the same thing every 5 years because I desire novelty. And then I stopped and I was like, are you also a Sagittarius? And he's like, yeah, I'm also a Sagittarius. And then we talked some more the next day, and I was like, wait, are you also you're the dragon? And he's like, also you're the dragon. So like that was huge. And then another thing that the Swami said is like I have like very strong Shiva energy through me.
Mm.
So it was
Mm.
crazy how I was led to this ashram and led to this temple because they were both Shiva ordained temples and ashrams. And I didn't know that at all. Like the ashram,
Mm.
I just like felt a calling to go to this ashram, and I showed up, and it just like led to this whole journey. And what's crazy is the yogi apparently got informed of my arrival and my departure days prior to me even showing up. Like apparently one of his
Mm.
like clairvoyant friends told him like, hey, like the woman's gonna it's like a person's gonna show up in your life, but they're not gonna stay with you. No, they're gonna show up in the ashram but not stay with you. And you're gonna give them great wisdom. And that's him taking me to the Swami and then telling me about all these different things. And I was just like, whoa. So it was crazy because I showed up at the ashram and I was like super excited to stay in the ashram because it's like beautiful, the nature, there's like a giant yoga shala, there's a garden, it's like so beautiful. But there was like no AC. Where I was at in northern Sri Lanka, it's so hot. Like I showered
Mhm.
like 4 times a day. So I tried to like just lay down in the bed and try to be like, okay, let me like just power through this. Like it's just like a couple of days. And I was just sweating so much. I was like, I can't do this. I just told the guy, like, hey, I'm so sorry. I'm gonna make another booking. Like, I'm so sorry. And I just left.
Yeah.
And I like first I thought he was like really upset or something like that. But he just sat there and just played his guitar and just like let me just like be in the room while like booked a new thing. And I felt really bad because I'm like, oh, I like told him I'm gonna stay here, but then I'm not. And then I felt really bad. But like apparently me and me got total that like this was
He already
chill.
knew.
Yeah, he already knew. So that was another moment of like really crazy, like, is this all predestined? Was this all made up? Because I
Yeah.
literally bought the ticket the day before I left for Sri Lanka. And I thought I was like being spontaneous. But then it was like already all fated. So I'm like, I thought I had free will and I thought this was completely like, last minute, but
Yeah, like,
here it is, this like moment of like fate.
yeah, well, so my experience is that a lot of times these like the last minute trips that you feel like you're pulled into or experience you're craving. I don't know. I wonder how much free will that we have over these things, right? Because like a
Yeah.
lot of things happen to me like usually is because of these experiences, and then like I didn't plan to do it, but like I felt like I need to do it, and then I
Mhm.
did it and it turned out to be like the best thing ever. And also even just like last time I was in New York, when we're communicating, like I just booked the last minute and I was like, heck, I'm just gonna do it. But then like I booked this conference last minute and there was an application process to getting, so I didn't even know whether I was gonna go to that conference until I landed in New York. At that time, I had already, like obviously I had booked my hotel and everything. And when I was there and I got the confirmation that the conference was booked, and they sent me an email, they said that, hey, we have this like partner hotel. And it was like turned out to be the hotel I was staying, right?
Hmm.
Didn't even
So you feel
know
like
that.
new.
Yeah, I didn't even know. But then, and I never been to that hotel. I hadn't even heard about the name of the hotel before I booked it. They partner with that specific hotel. They're like, we have 15% off for this hotel. I was like, what? Like, how come I'm staying here? I never wanted to stay here before. I just accidentally booked it. And so like, I think that, yeah, it's just, it's wild, right? Like every single time when you have these synchronicity and then you're like, wow, this is another evidence that I don't, like, I'm always blessed, but also, nothing happens accidentally. So what is the biggest lesson, like, now thinking back about Sri Lanka? What do you think that journey was teaching you?
I feel like the biggest thing is like relaxing into everything in life because I feel like a lot of humans like we stress way too much. And I realize
Yeah.
a lot of things are pre-planned because if you think about it, we came here with a soul blueprint. So a lot of our behaviors are already set in place. Like so it's like a chessboard. My soul blueprint is like there's only so many moves I can do with it. So like say for example the
Mm-hmm.
knight can only do like the L shape and then the bishop can only move diagonally. So, like, even though you have a whole board, because of our soul blueprint, we can only do certain moves that would go with
Yeah.
our personality type and like what we desire. So,
Yeah.
so basically for me, I realized like a lot of things are already pre-written. Like it's like a program that's already written and we just have to hit run and compile for the most part. So yes, we have like free will choices, like what do we want for breakfast and stuff like that. But there's certain big moments, like my Sri Lanka trip, my first time
Mm-hmm.
at Burning Man, like all this stuff like changed my life. And the people that you're gonna meet, because I've had readings where somebody's like, you're gonna meet so and so in this amount of time. And I remember at that time of the deadline, I was like looking around. I'm like, where's that person? Where is it? And I ran into the person, but
Mm.
then didn't think it was them. And then it shows back up. I'm like, holy fuck, it's that person because I didn't think it at the time. And
Yeah.
then all things, certain circumstances happen. And then it's like only like nearly a year later that I like backtrack and like, oh, that person was right. Like that psychic was right. Like that mystic was right. It's like this. So like, it's kind of
Yeah.
crazy. So I think a lot of things are really already pre-planned. So I'm just riding the waves. Like I feel like it's kind of like an amusement park ride where like I'm in for the joy instead of it being like
Mm.
a free roam thing. It's like a lot of things are kind of already pre-planned and you're just like there for the ride. So for now, I feel like it helped with the stress levels because I know this was like a very like kind of dark time of society, like what's going on in the global sphere. And I feel like for me,
Yeah.
I have this sense of calm right now. Like other times I'll be like a little bit more stressed. But now like
Yeah.
I'm like after the Sri Lanka trip and how like majestically mystic that whole journey was, I'm like, whoa, like the universe was really guiding me and leading me and it was a beautiful
Yeah.
journey.
Right, right. And how did you trust it? Because I think that what
Mm,
you're saying is really kind of like this false control versus like ego-driven control versus
yeah, yeah.
complete surrendering. But I think that when you're surrendering, it's like because you don't really have that programming that you were running before, right? Because that, like with that program, you're like, okay, I'm gonna go there, there, there. But like with surrendering, how did you then choose what to do?
Mm. What's really interesting is like feeling the energy currents. Like it's interesting. Like when I did my first ayahuasca in Peru, I started seeing energy currents. Like everybody has like these mystical experiences with like seeing their ancestors and everything else. I like after I puked, I looked up and it was like energy currents. I'm like, whoa, like like currents in the ocean, like surfers can read the waves and the currents and stuff like that. Like it's like an innate
Yeah,
ability there. Like ever since that eye journey, I've been able to feel energy. Like during that eye journey, I like
really.
looked up and I saw energy currents, and I was just like, "Whoa!" Like I saw energy currents, like it was like wind, colors of the wind, like Pocahontas song, like we can feel that. That was like it. I was like having this experience where I was like saw energy currents, and I'm like, "Whoa!" Like it was like another dimension of existence
Mm,
and access. So
mm,
since my
mm.
first eye journey, I started feeling energy flows times I'm like, I need to be here, and I would just go somewhere else. And then like, I'll run into a friend or like meet someone that's so synchronistic. Like I decided to do Uluwatu last minute and I went down to Uluwatu and I was at the spa. I was actually in another spa and I was gonna get a massage, but they didn't have like these tissues. So I was like, okay, never mind. So I went all the way over to this other spa and decided to book with them. And because of that, I was sitting in the lounge area and this guy was like, noticed my cupping. He's like, oh, did you get the cupping here? And I'm like, I got it somewhere else. And then he and I started talking, and then his wife came over, and then we realized we knew each other from LA way back. So then we got like have brunch and we caught up and we're like now we're gonna see each other back in LA. Like but like I ran into them at an event years ago with my ex and like basically I just like didn't really get their contact. So now like we have a deeper bond. Like we had this amazing brunch, talked about deep stuff like AI, future, like raising like all these different things because they just had a child. So like they're talking about like maybe moving to Bali. So I was giving some advice about Bali. But that was so synchronistic that I decided to switch spas and then also ran into people that I knew from LA that I didn't even realize they
Yeah,
were here and I hadn't seen them in years. Like the last time I saw them was like 22. So like it's been 3 years since
yeah,
I saw them and they remember me.
yeah,
It was crazy.
yeah,
So like because of these like little switches, because I was at the other spa and then something didn't feel right. Like I always have this sense of restlessness. I don't know how it is with you, but like
right.
when I feel like something isn't right, it's that sense of restlessness and unease. And I'm like, no, I need to set this right. So I was like, I need to course correct. So I switched
Yeah.
spas and I'm like, this is where I'm supposed to be. Like I just feel
Mm,
it intuitively. It's like a vibration thing. So now I'm like
yeah,
wondering like
yeah.
do I really have free will or am I just part of a script right now? Because there's times I'm like, oh, vibrationally, I need to be here. And then I just like
Yeah.
change and then everything just goes into like synchronicity.
It's almost like, as you said, that if you're on a chessboard, right? And then we're just like
Yeah.
chess pieces, and then you have a certain set of path that you're supposed to go through. And if
Yeah.
you're
Yeah.
off the path, then you feel the pull to like maybe go off, whatever you are, and then go back to where you're supposed to be going on. And that's probably like the energy. It's almost like that is like the energy pull, energy currents that you're talking about.
Well, another thing is like, I don't know if you know about timeline wars. It's like, so basically the idea of like, multiverses and all these different dimensions and everything else, like in quantum physics, like we also have every single choice branches off to a different
Yeah.
like multiverse. So like the idea, like say for example, if I hadn't left investment banking, like where would I be at? Like would I still be in New York working this banking job with a lot of money, but then not as happy? Like what happened if I like, followed my dreams and went off to California for college instead of following my dad's wishes and going to like this
Yeah.
yeah, so basically for me, like it's just really interesting because had I gone to California earlier, would I have discovered Burning Man earlier? Would I have discovered spirituality earlier? Would I still have my tech skills? Like so it it kind of shows you that all these timelines kind of split off. But I feel like now because of how synchronistic life has been, that I think I'm at peace right now because I think all my timelines would have merged in Bali at this moment to like meet Cassandra and like do this amazing event because I feel like it's a
Yeah.
culmination of everything that I've done with like going to Burning Man festivals, community building, gathering like the global tribe.
Yeah. 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 Yeah, it's like it's almost like coming to a place where your yin and your yang are
Yeah.
they're coming together, right, to that experience that you're having. So last question I have here is, reflect on your journey. What advice would you offer to individuals who feel trapped by societal or familial expectations, but they're yearning for a more authentic life?
I think the best thing is doing a Vipassana. Like I had this most amazing Vipassana that was like a biohacking Vipassana. So what a
A
Vipassana
hacking Vipassana. Okay.
yeah, so like it's like cryotherapy. So basically Vipassana is like a 10-day meditation. And the reason why for the 10 days is to really silence the ego. So essentially, I was against it because I love being around people, like talking. So the idea of like sitting 10 days in silence was boring to me. I'm like, that's such a waste of time. But then, like the
Yeah.
universe, like I met the owner of Astana that had the Vipassana program during COVID. And then I was like, I signed up for it, but then I was hesitant to do it. And then what ended up happening was like the day before the Vipassana started, I was like thinking about like not doing it. Bali gets shut down because the Delta cases were going like crazy. So I was like, oh, either I sit in my
So
villa.
you're going to do it anyway.
So like
Yeah.
either I sit alone in this villa, completely alone because all the restaurants and everything were shut down. I was like, or I just go to this Vipassana center and like sit with people and learn this meditation because apparently the universe
Yeah.
isn't giving me an out at this point. Like I what's the chances of that? Like I was like literally opposed to it. And then finally the universe like shuts down Bali. And I'm like, okay. So I ended up doing the Vipassana. And it was such a powerful experience for me because I realized the ruminating thoughts. So one of the things that it does is like it makes you realize how much you don't have control over your thoughts. Like you're thinking about the most random things, like what I'm
No.
gonna have for lunch tomorrow. Like, oh my God, I can't believe I did that thing. It's like random thought from third grade. It's like, oh my God, like I still have to do this one thing. Like you're having all these thoughts. So basically, during Vipassana, like after the third day of complete silence, I woke up and my mind was silent. I didn't have a thought. And I realized I was like, what
Yeah.
the hell is this? It
Okay.
felt like my whole time, like I had this like crazy thought bubble from like, the Peanuts comic where it's like, and then also it just popped and I came to complete silence. And I was just like, what sorcery is this? So I got obsessed with it. And I basically just sat there and just like meditated longer. Like, and I just like cried, like, because I didn't think I could do it because I told the instructor, like, had you asked me like weeks ago whether or not I want to present to like a stadium of 10,000 people, a presentation for an hour, or sit in silence for like 10 days, I would have done the presentation. Like I have no like fear of public speaking. And so I was just like, I would have done that over the 10 days of silence. But now I understood why. Like it changed my life because what it does is it silences your ego. It really sits you with your inner child and your inner thoughts. And basically, what it does is it silences everything that you are literally just by yourself. So it feels like it's an intimate moment where you're really like aligning your higher self with your inner child and like really having this centered experience. So because of that, like
Yeah.
yeah, I thought that that was just so powerful. So like that was that if I was telling someone to go on a path is basically do a Vipassana so you know who you are. Like if you're completely lost, do a Vipassana,
Mm.
sit with yourself, learn a practice, and then just really sit with yourself. And then it just tears away all the noise and all the distractions. Because after my Vipassana, I felt like I was a different person. Like I felt I was more focused, I was more grounded. I didn't realize how ungrounded I was until after Vipassana. Like, yeah,
Yeah.
so it was really good.
Yeah. That's definitely a reset. I also did 4 days of that in the silent meditation center in Bali, and that was also life changing. I wish I could do maybe a little bit longer and also maybe more meditation because like in that retreat center was you could still just do whatever you want. You don't need necessarily to meditate. But yeah, like that's such a great way. It's also like very economical, right? It doesn't cost you
Yeah.
a lot of money. You don't even spend money when you're there, but it's like the benefit is tremendous.
Yeah, a lot of them are donation based. Like, there's also some that's like not official Vipassana center. They can just show up and just meditate. Like the Sri Lanka monastery, they have it as a place for truth seekers. So they open
Yeah.
the monastery to anybody.
Yeah.
So like
Yeah, that's
maybe I
that's
can just show up.
amazing.
Another one is in LA, like not in LA, San Diego in the mountains, there's a place called the Meta Monastery. So there's all these monasteries around the world that like if you just knew about it, like if I knew about this
Yeah,
years ago, like I don't think I would have gone all the way over to like these crazy
into
places. Yeah, if I
yeah,
had known that there was monasteries like this in the States, like in the States, like if I had known this, I would have like done that. But then again, I know I'm so much of a traveler, global traveler, so like going off to like Asia and Thailand and doing the monastery there is really interesting. But at the same time, like if you don't have the means of travel, like look up a monastery, look up a Buddhist center, look up like actually figure out what your soul blueprint is because apparently like my soul blueprint, like I have Shiva energy through me. So like the Eastern like Eastern religions of like Hinduism and like Buddhism, like the places that emulate that energy, like Bhutan and Sri Lanka and Bali, like I have a huge resonance with. Like every time I'm
mm,
there, like I just have synchronistic encounters. And
mm,
the other places that don't have that, like I don't really feel it. Like so some
mm,
people have Christ consciousness energy through them.
mm.
So for them, they like really, really resonate with places that have a lot of that energy, like maybe Jerusalem and stuff like that. But for me, like it's the Eastern places, like Asia, that basically resonate with me a lot more.
Okay, so one more thing I ask all my guests is, can you fill out the sentence for me? The sentence goes, I am proud of myself because.
Because right now I'm living my radiantly expansive life journey and I am just so content and happy in it. Yeah.
That's so beautiful. Thank you so much, Swan. Thank you so much for being
Okay.
on the show.
Thank you. This is such a pleasure. Thank you so much.
If this conversation sparked something in you, share it with someone who needs to hear it. And if you're building a more true life, not just more impressive, we would love to hear your story. Follow us on Instagram, YouTube, and TikTok at Asian Rebel Club and join our newsletter for more ways to connect. Link in the description. Until next time.